Hello, I'm Nina Rosenblum. This video has been developed to help participants of Oxfam's film competition, Shooting Poverty, but can also be very useful to anyone wanting to learn how to write an effective treatment. A treatment is your first step to get a job as well as funding in the industry. This is a written document used to illustrate your film to the reader, and the better your treatment is, the more the reader will understand what your vision is for the film. A treatment could be 1 to 20 pages, depending on the length of the project, and for this competition, your treatment should be a maximum of 5 pages. Use your own writing style like a novelist does, and make sure you keep a few things in mind before you start writing. Before you write your treatment, you need to make sure you know your story and your topic well. Start by writing out the basic elements: who, where, when, what, why, and how. Use these elements to create a story that you believe must be told. The best stories show the growth and change of the protagonist throughout the story. This is your narrative arc. This is the most common structure of a narrative arc, and as you can see, your story must escalate to be interesting. In setting the scene, or the first act, you will be able to show where the story takes place, how the story unfolds, and who your main character or characters are. Keep in mind that your main subject may not just be a single individual, but it could be an institution, it could be a community, or it could be a social issue, or something else, depending on the nature of your story. Your first plot point is your turning point, and it comes at the end of your first act. Here's where the first relevant event or incident happens that sets in motion your character's mission and establishes a goal. Here, you should point out what's important for the protagonist and how he or she will achieve their goal. Then comes facing the issues, or better known as the second act. This is the meat of your story, where the character works towards his or her goal, facing obstacles and complications. The second plot point comes at the end of the second act. Here, the character finds another key complication or obstacle, larger than the first plot point. The climax comes in the third act, which is the highest point and the most intense moment in your film. After the climax, your characters come to a resolution. It doesn't have to be a big resolution. It could be just a sentence or a brief explanation of what the character expects in the future. Stories can be compelling without adhering to the classic narrative structure, but it's always a good idea to know the basics. Now that you have your story, let's start writing. A treatment could be considered a written pitch, something that catches the buyer's attention and makes them want to see more. The best way to translate your vision to the reader is by writing in an active voice in the present tense. Tell the reader what they will see and hear on the screen. But don't go into too much detail. Focus on the most relevant elements, like you did when you created your narrative arc. You shouldn't be writing dialogue in the treatment unless it's a line or two that are crucial to make your story stand out. Write colorfully so that the reader visualizes what's in your mind, but avoid splashy adjectives wherever possible. For example, don't write, "This fascinating story will be beautifully shot," because you have to show how the story will be beautifully shot by explaining your vision. Think of the beginning of your treatment as the hook that's used to reel in your audience. And remember, some people won't read any further than the beginning if it is not compelling. So remember, put a lot of time, effort, and heart into the opening of your story. In the documentary, Stopping at Nothing, the director looks at the life of Jose Gonzalez, a native Colombian, who tries to reveal the damage that a corrupt oil company has on his country's indigenous population. This introduction is bland and it sounds like a story already told. So you may try to introduce something shocking into the beginning of your treatment. For example, in the center of this dense Colombian jungle, thousands of indigenous people are dying each year from black lung and poisoned water. Jose Gonzalez is now returning to his country to fight one of the most controversial legal battles of the decade against the third largest oil company in the world. Now that your reader is hooked, keep them there. Throughout the rest of the treatment, expand that first line, describing your story and introducing any other main characters. Mention what extra footage you plan to use, like B-roll or archival footage or dramatic reenactments. The characters are the most important element of any story, so you should make sure that you describe your characters very, very well. If the climax of your story hasn't actually occurred yet, tell the reader what you would expect to find in the shooting process. All in all, keep the treatment user-friendly and know your reader. Whenever you submit a treatment, you must make sure that it is geared specifically to that reader. If it is for a competition like this one, take your time to read the guidelines, samples, and any other material that may be resourceful for you. And in the case of Oxfam's shooting poverty competition, keep in mind that there are a mix of judges. Some of them know plenty about the arms trade and others know little. So you will have a challenge to write an appealing, clear treatment for all. The two main themes that the judges are looking for in the shooting poverty competition are, number one, the direct impact of the arms trade and armed violence on the social development and growth of your community, society, or country. And number two, the impact on your community and country of the widespread corruption and wasteful spending associated with the arms trade. Take a look at the treatment for the documentary Retracing Geneva that shows how the arms trade in Sierra Leone and Liberia were directly linked to corruption in the government and corporations, and how it left the country poor and in shambles after the war ended. Whichever of these topics you choose, remember to turn them into personal stories, something special, something that the world has never seen before. And remember to read some of the cases that Oxfam has provided for you on shootingpoverty.org. Lighting interviews are key to your film and will give it its look. You can search out images and video clips that will give a sense of how you want your frames to look and include them in your lighting section. If you want to choose to conceal the identity of the subject, you can light it like this. Or if instead you want something more dramatic, you can find another reference, maybe something that's shot like this. Or you can choose conventional lighting that would look like this. But just remember, the more complex the lighting, the more time it will take you to finish your interviews. Both in the interviews and your other footage, the way you frame your shots makes a huge difference in the way your audience sees your film. For example, you can conduct your interviews framed like this, where your character is looking directly into the camera, or you can shoot it in a more conventional interview style like this. Or you can shoot with a handheld camera like this. Or like this, if you prefer something with a more cinema verite feeling, where the camera does not interfere with the action. Whatever style you choose, make sure that the visuals represent what you intend to shoot. If you include visual references, make sure that you label them clearly. For example, lighting style or camera style. Audio references are very similar. Find tunes that resemble the ones you'd like to have in your film. This is not clear for all filmmakers, but give it a shot. Music can make or break a film, and it's essential for your story to come to life. Watch as I perform a simple action with one type of music. And watch as I perform the same action with a different kind of music. As you can see, the same action can take on many different meanings and be perceived totally differently depending on the music. So take your time and think about it in your music selection. And when you make a documentary, you have to speak from your heart, trust your deepest instincts, never give up, never take no for an answer, and know that you're doing one of the most important things that you could ever do, which is to bring the truth out to humanity.